everyone, and welcome to our talk show. Today, we will discussing an issue that is often ignored, but very common in modern workplace bullying. Let's watch a video to learn about workplace bullying.
This video explains what workplace bullying and harassment is and what it's not. Legal obligations for employers, supervisors, and workers. And where to get the information you need. So first off, what is workplace bullying and harassment? It includes any inappropriate conduct or comment by a person towards a worker that the person knew or reasonably ought to have known would cause that worker to be humiliated or intimidated. Examples could be yelling or name-calling, vandalizing personal belongings, harmful hazing or initiation practices. There might be a single perpetrator or a group. There may be just one target or many. Bullying and harassment can occur between co-workers or between the employer and a worker. Or it can come from external sources, such as members of the public, clients and customers, or workers from other organizations. Bullying and harassment also extends to online activities. Cyberbullying can occur through email, text messages, social networks, and other websites. What is not considered workplace bullying and harassment? Managers and supervisors have many responsibilities. Decisions relating to job duties, workloads, deadlines, and performance management, or the direction of workers and the workplace are not bullying and harassment. So what are your legal duties? Employers have an obligation to take reasonable steps to prevent bullying and harassment, or minimize it where possible. Employers must also develop a policy statement that addresses bullying and harassment in the workplace. Develop and implement procedures for reporting incidents or complaints, and for how they will be dealt with. They also have to train supervisors and workers. Supervisors and workers are required to comply with the employer's policies and procedures and not engage in workplace bullying and harassment. Workers must report it when they see it or experience it. The bottom line is, bullying and harassment is a workplace hazard that poses a risk to the health and safety of workers. As part of their responsibility to protect worker safety, WorkSafe BC prevention officers will inspect workplaces to determine if employers have taken reasonable steps to prevent and address bullying and harassment. The occupational health and safety policies explain what WorkSafe BC considers to be reasonable steps for employers to take. When bullying is reported, it gives employers an opportunity to take positive action. Put an end to workplace bullying and harassment.
Let us begin to listening to the experience of victim. Thank you for being willing to share your experience with us today. I know this is not an easy topic to talk about, but your story may help many people who are going through similar situation. To begin with, could you tell us a little about your workplace and what kind of bullying you experienced?
I'm very thankful for giving these opportunities. I used to work in a medium-sized company, and at first everything seemed normal. However, after a few months, I started notice challenge in how I was treated. The bullying didn't happen all at once. It started very stably. For example, My idea was constantly ignored during meetings, even when they were later repeated, but someone else and suddenly accepted. I was also excluded from informal discussion and the group stress, which made it different for me to do my job properly.
So it wasn't physical bullying, but more emotional and psychological.
Yeah, exactly. It was most psychological. There were also verbal remarks that made us feel uncomfortable. Sometimes my supervisor was made sarcastic comments about my performance in front of my colleagues. Even small mistakes were exaggerated, whereas mistakes were overlooked. Over time, this creates an environment where I constantly feel anxious and unsafe.
How did this situation affect you personally, especially your mental health?
It affect me deeply. At first, I told myself to ignore it and stay professional. But gradually, I start doubting myself. I feel nervous before going to work every morning, and I couldn't sleep well at night. I lost confidence in my abilities, even though I have never had this double before. I become quiet, avoided speaking up, and feel emotionally extra all the time.
Did you talk to anyone about what you were experiencing?
Not immediately, I was afraid that if I spoke up, the situation would get worse. The person involved have more powers than me, and I worry that reporting the issues might affect my job or future career. I didn't talk to close friends eventually, but even then, I wasn't sure where was I was experiencing could be considerably boring. I kept questioning myself and wondering if I was just being too sensitive.
There's something many victims struggle with, not knowing whether their experience is serious through to report.
Yeah, exactly. There was no clear physical evidence, so I feel like I have to endure it. The workplace culture also plays a role. People around me staying silent, and that made me feel even more isolated. Uh, Eventually, I decided to leave the job because men- my mental health had reached a breaking point.
Looking back now, what do you think organization should do different to protect employees from workplace bullying?
I believe organization need to take psychological safety serious. There should be clear policies, self-reporting channels, and measures who are training to uh, recognize bullying behaviors. More important, companies should create a culture where respect and empathy are values, not just productive productivity. No one should feel afraid to go to work every day.
Thank you for sharing such a powerful and honest experience. Your story reminds us that workplace bullying is not just a personal issue but a cultural and organizational problem. Thank you for sharing that experience. Now we would like to hear from another perspective that is rarely discussed openly, the perspective of someone who used to be the bullying. So may I ask you to share your experience?
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity. So to be honest, speaking from this position is not very easy, but I believe it is necessary. So when I first entered the workplace, I didn't see myself as a bully at all. In my mind, I was simply doing my job or maintaining standards. I believe that being strict, direct, and sometimes harsh was part of being professional. So looking back now, I realized that the mindset was deeply influenced by the workplace culture I was in. At that time, the environment was very competitive. Mistakes was not tolerated, and the pressure came from the top management. As a supervisor, I was constantly reminded that results mattered more than people's feelings. Gradually, I started passing the pressure downwards, especially to junior colleagues. Some of my behaviors included raising my voice during meetings, publicly criticizing mistakes, and excluding certain colleagues from discussions. I also believe that the silence could be a way to teach someone a lesson. I didn't physically harm anyone, but emotionally, I created fear and insecurity. So the truth is, I didn't realize that these actions were bullying at that time. I thought bullying only meant physical threats or extreme harassment. I failed to recognize that emotional intimidation, humiliation, and power imbalance are also forms of workplace bullying.
Did you ever notice how your action affect others?
Okay, at first, no. I was too focused on deadlines, targets, and my own stress. However, over time, I noticed changes. Some colleagues became very quiet, others avoided eye contact or stopping sharing ideas in meetings. One person even resigned without giving a clear reason. At that moment, I still didn't fully understand my role. I blamed them for being too sensitive or not strong enough. So this was probably the most dangerous mindset, believing that professionalism means suppressing emotions completely. So my turning point came when a formal complaint was raised. I was shocked and defensive. I felt misunderstood and unfairly accused. But after attending counseling sessions provided by the company, I was forced to reflect on my behavior. Oh, okay. For the first time, I listened not to respond, but to understand. I realized that the authority not doesn't give someone the right to humiliate others. Leadership is not about control, but responsibility.
What did you learn from this experience?
Okay, I learned the workplace bullying is not always international, but its impact is real. Stress, power, and the toxic workplace culture can slowly turn people into bullies without them realizing it. So I also learned that the silence from the victims doesn't mean acceptance. Many people stay silent because they fear losing their jobs, damaging their reputation, or being labeled as problematic. So this silence often protects the bully, not the victim. Today, I believe that the organizations must go beyond legal compliance. Politics alone are not enough. So the companies need to build a culture of psychological safety where employees feel safe where the employees feel safe to speak up without fear. Personally, I have changed how I communicate. So I give feedback privately, listening actively, and remind myself that respect is a core part of workplace etiquette. So being professional doesn't mean being cold or aggressive. It means being human. If I could say one thing to anyone who recognizes themselves in my story, it would be this: reflect early, apologize sincerely, change consciously. Because one trust is broken, it means it is very hard to repair.
Thank you for sharing those practice tips. Now I'd like to turn to our psychologists from a professional point of view. How serious is workplace bullying when it comes to mental health?
Workplace bullying is extremely serious, and it is often underestimated. Many people think bullying only means physical aggression, but in reality, psychological bullying, such as humiliation, exclusion, constant criticism, or abuse of power, can even more damaging. These behaviors can lead to anxiety, expression, burnout, and long-term psychological trauma.
You mentioned psychological bullying. Why does this type of bullying have such a strong impact on people?
Because the workplace is where adults spend a large portion of their lives. When bullying happens repeatedly in a professional environment, the victim feels trapped. They may depend on job financially or fear losing their position. Over time, this creates chronic stress, which affects sleep, concentration, self-esteem, and even physical health.
In the earlier segment, the victim showed that they did not report the bullying at the time. Is this common?
Yes, it's very common. Many victims choose silence because of power imbalance. When the bully holds a higher position, victim fears retaliation, job loss, or being labeled or problematic. In some workplace cultures, reporting bullying is seen as weakness, which further discourages people from speaking up.
From your experience, what role does workplace culture play in allow bullying to happen?
Workplace culture plays a major role. In toxic culture, aggressive behavior is often normalized or even rewarded. For example, people may justify bullying by saying, "That's just how leadership works," or "pressure improves performance." When organizations prioritize result over well-being, bullying becomes invisible or ignored.
So bullying is not just an individual problem.
Exactly. Workplace bullying is not merely about one bad person. It is often a systemic issue. If an organization lacks clear politics, safe reporting mechanisms, and psychological support, bullying can continue unchecked. This is why we talk about psychological safety. Employees must feel safe to speak without fear of punishment.
What can organizations do to prevent workplace bullying more effectively?
First, organizations must establish clear anti-bullying politics and communicate them openly. Second, management must receive a proper training to recognize bullying behaviors. Third, companies should provide confidential reporting channels and access to counseling service. Most importantly, leaders must model respectful behavior themselves.
For individuals who are experiencing bullying right now, what advice would you give?
I would encourage them to document incidents, seek emotional support, and talk to someone they trust. Whether a colleague, counselor, or HR representative, no one should feel isolated. Bullying can deeply affect mental health, but recovery is possible when people receive proper support and validation.
Thank you for those insights. It really helps us understand that workplace bullying is not only a personal issue, but a serious organizational and mental health common.